Great. All right, resolutions in short. Okay, MUN resolutions, there are many longer workshops that can cover it. But for today, as an introduction and with some tips to those with more experience, we're going to learn how to write MUN draft resolutions. So in short, we're going to cover what is a draft resolution, what is a clause, when do we write draft resolutions. We'll talk a bit about the roles and the content, types of clauses, and formatting. And following that, we're going to talk a bit about how we can do this if we haven't done this and what to do to try to get better. So, what are United Nations resolutions? To read what it is, I call upon Dissect from the USA. Dissect from the USA, can you please read us this, this slide? I mean, unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself, Dissect USA. All right, we can't hear you. All right, Dissect Senegal, please read the slide.
What is a United Nations resolution? Resolutions are written decisions of a UN committee made up of clauses. These decisions are instructions that are then carried out by the same UN committee or by UN member states.
Thank you very much. Tanzania, UNEP, please read the next slide. And UK Interpol, you're after that. Tanzania, UAEP, please read the slide. Unmute yourself. Good.
Resolutions allocate people, resources, and money to put towards whatever the UN committee decides need to be done.
Excellent. So these resolutions or draft resolutions are made up of clauses. They are instructions that can allocate people, resources, money, or sometimes legally define things. Basically, doing what the resolution, what the committee needs to be done. Okay? So that's how we do it. UK Interpol, please read the next two slides.
Okay. What is a clause? A clause is a specific section within a written binding document, like a section in a rent contract.
Okay, so a clause details one part of the resolution, one idea. Please keep going.
Clauses. Clauses are the written calls to action of multiple delegates. Call to action, the how part of our CIA speeches.
All right, so if whoever was with me last week, we talked about a structure of giving an opening speech where you're going to be saying how you're going to do it. The more details you understand, even if it doesn't fit in your opening speech, the more space you're going to have. I say the less of a gap it is to writing these instructions in the document. Ideally, for all of you, you should try to have one idea that you're going to write. For those who have more experience, you may be the one writing more ideas. But generally, it's good to have one strong idea connected to you. If you have multiple ideas, then it's harder to connect which idea is yours. And if they're vague, it's also going to be harder. So, what I talked about last time, I said try to have a policy that is unique and stands out, at least enough that you can be connected to it. By the way, if you have a better idea or a better idea comes up, you can switch. But the point is that you're always pushing something forward as best you can. So clauses are sections of the draft resolution. The draft resolution is made up of a few clauses. You should hopefully be behind or involved in at least one of them, but the chairs should know and other delegates should know at least one idea, which is yours. Okay? Are we good so far? Give me a thumbs up if we are. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. So, when do we write draft resolutions? Draft resolutions are written during the unmoderated caucus. This is when we walk around, we lobby, we discuss things with people, and all have a good time. We can also, after they're started, keep working on them during the regular committee session, but the time when it starts and you can do it as freely and cooperatively is during the unmod. Okay, so if you're not sure what an unmod is, ask your club, ask the secretariat. I'm not going through the rules of procedure here, but it's basically independent lobbying time. And just to give an idea, this is the flow of debate. So during the main part of debate. Now, by the way, I'll say to their credit, Atidmun is a 2-day conference, so you will have more time to revise the document, to make amendments, maybe even get onto a second topic. but it's not going to be the same rush to just write, get one draft, and then bam, the conference is over, like happens in 1 day conferences. So the 2 day conference, you'll really have time to refine your writing, and the chairs are going to have a lot of support. So it should hopefully be a really quality process. And having the chairs having secretariat support is not a given. So you'll have more time to write and to do more quality and improve what you're doing than you normally would. Okay, so they're written during the unmoderated caucus. You can then go back to a mod to talk about what you wrote, and then go back to refining it. Model UN, there's speaking, there's finding a group, and then there is writing down your ideas, and that's what it is over here. Okay, next up, the clauses. There are two types of clauses: preambulatory clauses, why we are doing this, and operative clauses, how we're going to do it. And I'm going to focus now mostly on the operative clauses, because if you write many preambulatory and no operative, you're not actually doing something. Now, by you, I mean someone else can write them for you, but it is very important that the clauses are being written where some kind of action or idea that you have is being added to the document. So I'm going to talk about preambulatory clauses a little bit afterwards, but operative are much more important. So if you're going to write a clause, it should be an operative clause, and you should have a say in at least one of them. All right, so operative clauses, what we're going to do. Okay, and this, let's say, is the meat of this workshop. Let's have Iceland OECD. Please tell us about operative clauses.
An operative clause is a specific instruction explaining how your plan is going to work.
Excellent. Keep going.
Operative clauses should be detailed and be as short or long as needed.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, now this is where I said before, as in it needs to be a specific instruction. So let's take a look. Okay, and here's our example clause. We should embargo North Korea. Okay, can someone tell me what embargo means? And can just say it.
Stop trading with them?
Exactly.
Prohibition.
Okay, good. Now, embargo North Korea is a good direction, but it is not specific. What are we embargoing? Okay, so that means that it's a good direction. We understand the principle, but we don't know practically how it's going to be done, where we should focus. Are we embargoing everything forever? Are we starting now? Are we starting later? And so on. So this is where this needs to become something specific and actionable, just like we wrote before. So making it something more specific, North Korea can't sell seafood. That means no one, and also no one should be allowed to buy from them. Okay, so now it's an embargo of a specific type. All right, so we have now moved from we want to create some kind of embargo to a specific embargo. And now we're going to see how to turn this into a clause. Because why is resolution writing scary? It's a lot of words in English, which seems to be very formatted, and it's not something we feel is accessible. But some of the drills that we have, and I'm sure some of you may have done it, is you can write a resolution on anything. You can write on what pizza to get. You can write it on where to get lunch. The key is to translate common sense, ideas, and then turn them into UN resolution ideas. So we started with, we should embargo, because they're developing nuclear weapons and developing ballistic missiles. Now we're saying they can't sell seafood, and no one should be allowed to buy from them. Okay, this still is human speak. We still understand this. Operative clause rules. Bhutan World Health Organization, can you read us the operative clause rules? All right, I guess not. Let's go with Malaysia UNODC. Can you please read the operative clause rules?
The first word of each clause must be either an operative phrase, italics. Operative clauses start with a number. Operative clauses end with a semicolon.
Thank you. Okay, so we can see here from these instructions, we understand what it is that we are looking to do. And if you don't do these, your chair will send you back to do them. So first work on your content, but then make sure that it fits. And by the way, you can work with your teammates to make sure these rules are followed. An operative phrase is a verb that has legal meaning. For example, calls for, demands, endorses, encourages, notes, recognizes, and so on. You need to start the sentence with these words to make sure you're saying something clear. There's a longer list of them. Here are a few additional examples. And online, you go to operative phrases or preambulatory phrase guides to find them. I also probably should add a QR code to this slide so you can just jump to an article with more of them. The idea is any of those words are good to use, and there's a much more expansive list. Here, by the way, is a clause that follows these instructions. So an operative clause about operative clauses. I'm going to invite Uri Sagi to please read this clause.
One requires that the first word of each clause must be an operative phrase. A, that the first word be italics. B, start with a number. And C, end with a semicolon.
Okay, very good. Excellently read. And I was find it kind of funny that this clause is written as a clause with the clause rules, but you see how it's used. The word requires is one of those words. And the first section of the clause says the word must be required. In addition, the first word is in italics. It starts with a number. The number is not so important. Ideally, the more important idea should come first, but good chairs will know that political compromise is there. And if someone agrees to have their clause be first and theirs is like, seventh, but it still gets talked about the most, it shouldn't factor in. There are many places to compromise, and it's sort of like who here is a Hamilton fan? Raise your hand. Okay, we got a whole lot of Hamilton fans. So just you can all see each other. So if you remember in the famous rap about the compromise where they say, we got the banks, we're in the same spot, same thing. We moved the capital. So where the capital is doesn't matter as much, but if you still control the more relevant thing, that's great. So if you're in a discussion with someone and they want their clause to come first, but that gets you their vote and their clause is something which is not so memorable or strong, it's an easy compromise to make comparatively. And if it gets you a block, even more so. If they say, we want our clause to be 1, 2, and 3, but you know that they're not as strong ideas, that's a way to do it. So that's the type of thinking. But again, don't get stuck on this either way. Whatever number your clause is, when you're doing the floor work and people are echoing them, and I think, we've seen the experience when people are on a panel of authors, they're going to say the number of the clause. They're going to say the name of the clause, which is relevant. And they're going to say, right now, we have a question about clause 7, subclause B. And I've seen there was a time when there was an MUN that I was at where almost the entire resolution was the same between the two groups. And the entire mods and panelists of authors were about, let's say, clause 23B. It was a clause halfway through. The one of them said let people go, and the other one said put people in jail. That was the only difference. So, and this is why you say so many people, the ideas we see are obvious, and the contributions that people have are going to be, very well recognized, and people are going to be used to them. But again, people will put things that are safe. Ideally, your idea won't be safe. It'll be a hot take. It'll be something that brings something new. Sort of like what I talked about in the opening speech, that you want to make sure that your policy someone in the room disagrees with. If no one disagrees, no one is going to talk about it, which is why somebody needs to disagree. Same idea here. When your clause is written, that doesn't mean everyone's going to see it. You have to tell people, no, in our top 3 clause or top clause 3, 7, and 12, these ones bring the greatest ideas. And the opposition blocks will pay attention to them to try to justify why theirs is better. So the number of your clause doesn't really matter as much. It can be nice to have the most important first, but for the sake of peace and working together, the number place is not as important. It's not the most important. Okay, let's jump back to where we are. So this is our clause requiring the format of the clause. So now let's take our previous idea. We talked about embargoing seafood. Which of these words could be good for that? Approves? Do we approve, not selling seafood? Do we call for it? Do we condemn countries or North Korea for selling seafood? Do we designate? Not really. We're not designated anyone. Do we encourage? We're not encouraging. Do we regret? That doesn't seem about right. Maybe we regret that seafood was sold in the past. Welcomes, the same thing. We see not every word works. So we want to see what word works. I'll say, by the way, recommends, calls for, encourages. These could be good words. If you're encouraging someone else, or you recommend a different department, you recommend a country takes action. Sometimes a committee, let's say a Security Council, can actually decide something. So we're going to go with the word decides. Decides that North Korea can't sell seafood and the UN members can't buy seafood from North Korea. They can't sell, others can't buy. Okay, see the same idea we started with before? Now looks like something much more like a clause. It's in Times New Roman font. And this, by the way, is almost the text of a real United Nations clause on the matter. This is the clause. Let's have Iris, UNSC Denmark. Can you please read this real UN clause? All right, UNSC Denmark. Ido, please read the clause.
Sure. Decides that North Korea shall not sell seafood and that UN member states shall prohibit the purchase of seafood from North Korea by their citizens.
Okay, see this? Very similar. And this is the type of thing I'd like you all to have. When you first write your idea, just write it for yourself normally. Okay, you can even write your entire resolution in normal text. More experienced MUNers try to start writing it like this to save time. But if it's your first time, and I will say this to if someone's an experienced delegate and you're looking to involve others in your writing process, and I recommend this from, at least, intermediate rooms on, you need to work as a team. I've seen sometimes a more experienced delegate or a first timer from a club with experience try to be the solo writer. And I've seen more than once this one person outperformed by less experienced delegates on the other side because they work together. A whole lot of resolution writing is editing and refining text. Do it as a team. And for this reason, you want to make sure that to get the clauses out there, you can write them in regular human speak, then add the words, afterwards review for the punctuation to make sure it's a semicolon, because if this here is a comma, for example, the chair can send it back to you and say, hey, this doesn't work. So first, get the ideas out and make them clear, then add all these other parts. There is no points for making the language too complicated or the idea not clear. In the UN, they have many people who review these documents to make sure they are legally sound and that they work. Okay, so this is what you need to put in a clause. This idea here is covered. A few extra words, but at the core of it, North Korea cannot sell seafood and UN member states cannot purchase the seafood by their citizens. That's what they need to supervise. This was the decision that was made in a real UN resolution. So that's what we should put in a clause. What do we not put in a clause? First of all, adjectives. Second of all, explanations. Okay? So first of all, adjectives. Descriptive language. The World Health Organization should provide 50 milligrams of naloxone to the depressed fentanyl addicts. We don't need to know that they are depressed. This is not important and isn't helpful. I'll give another example. The World Food Program will send 240,000 tons of food to the North Korean people to end years of starvation and malnutrition. This is a why. This is an explanation of why this is happening. Also not relevant. Your resolutions are only doing actions. What I would say for both of these cases is move it to the preambulatory clauses. Move it to the area where you talk about background. You don't need necessarily delete it, but it's not an operative clause. A chair who finds this will send you and tell you to delete it. My recommendation to you, again, we have this need to explain in our gut. We have a need to say why. Our whole school life, tell us why. What's your favorite movie and why? Which book report did you write and why? In Model UN, it's no longer about why. It is about how in a clear instruction, and that is it. Now, by the way, if you decide that you're going to write an operative clause with no preamble, you can get rewarded for being the best delegate because you brought the idea that got through and won the simulation. At the same time, if you write 5 preambles that are all great but no operative, it's nice, it's poetic, but it doesn't move you forward. So the operative is what is most important. Make your operatives clean, A good operative clause explains the problem even if it doesn't have a preambulatory clause. If I know we're not buying seafood from North Korea, we probably know that they're doing something pretty serious that we're causing an embargo. 2 seconds of research will help you find what. There are a few different options that all work. Okay? So, moving on, seeing the same thing in the clause we just looked at. Decides, let's have somebody else read. Let's go with OECD Colombia. Are you around? USA Dissect. Are you able to read now? Can you unmute yourself? USA Dissect? All right.
I'm able to read.
Okay, we're starting with USA Dissect. Okay, USA Dissect, read the clause.
Decides that North Korea can sell really yummy seafood and that UN member states, whether rich or poor, shall prohibit the purchase for hard-earned money of healthy seafood from, and I don't see the
1 second here.
seafood from the North Korea by their citizens.
Okay, wonderful. Very good. So we can see here, thank you very much, USA. All right, we see here that this looks kind of silly, really yummy, whether rich or poor, but people do write like this because we're taught to in most other places. Keep it clean, keep it neat, keep it short. All right, let's see if we can identify the adjectives and the use of why in clauses. Seeing these examples, all right? Let's have someone read. Who was the other reader? OECD Columbia, are you around?
I'm around.
All
I'm
right.
here.
Read us this clause.
Use of adjective drill calls for three of the most powerful and richest countries, France, Spain, and Italy, to build nuclear weapons factories to prepare Europe for Russia's possible use of nuclear weapons.
Wonderful. Okay. Open popcorn. Anyone can say which part of these should not be part of the clause.
Powerful and richest.
Okay, richest countries. That's good. Anything
And
else?
to prepare
Also prepare Europe for Russia's possible use of nuclear. Like that's explaining why. It's not really necessary because what you call for is just what you want to do. That's the operative clause. You don't really need to explain why. You can put that in the background, right?
Excellent. 10 out of 10 for HSC Australia. If your teachers are not watching this, you can show them this video and say, look, everyone, at whatever minute this is. Excellent. Really well analyzed. There's one more thing here which we can take out. Can someone find it? We heard that richest is not correct, and we have
The
why.
the most powerful, maybe?
Excellent. Three of the most powerful. Also good. So first of all, three of those powerful and richest countries. We don't need to know that to say France, Spain, and Italy do something. Next, as HSC Australia said very well, to prepare Europe for Russia's possible use of nuclear weapons. Excellent. Both of these are not relevant. One of them is descriptive. One of them is a why, turning this large clause to actually be this. Calls for France, Spain, and Italy to build nuclear weapons factories. Okay? Great. Now, this should not happen in real life, hopefully, but the point is you see just how much flowery language we can let get in there if we are not careful. All right. Did someone raise their hand for a question? Yes. All right. South Africa.
Yeah, these are just for these are not for the opening speeches, right?
Correct. Opening speech with the last word. This is already later on where your idea is more developed and written down in clear instructions. Opening speeches is the other workshop. If you weren't there, the conference secretary are going to send the video. Okay, excellent. So let's move on. So this is operative clauses. Your call to action, by the way, needs to solve the problem, fit your country's goals, and potentially reach a majority by being relevant and clear. And this is why, why does it need to be that? Because an operative clause is an instruction sent to a UN bureaucratic office to be carried out by people whose job it is to carry out those instructions. So this is why we need to write clearly, and it's good practice for us. When it's written, we all see what it is dealing with. And this is a very important point, I would say, to take into life in general, because when, let's say, two countries or let's say two cities are next to each other and they have streets that overlap, who's going to collect the garbage? Who's in charge of the electricity? Who's going to make sure that there's pumping water? Who do you tax? These details are very, very important. Same thing goes here. When it's written, you both know what it says. It's no longer left to what you say. It's now what there is in front of you. The UN bureaucrats are not paid to think. Okay, they're paid to carry out orders. And that's something which we need to keep in mind when we're writing our instructions. Okay, for operative clauses, I want to add one more thing. You can see here, there's another example that decides that North Korea, the Democratic People of Korea, shall not supply, sell, transfer directly or indirectly from its territory or by its nationals by using its flag vessels, seafood, and other types of creatures. This is another clause. Now you can write things in a big clause, or you can use subclauses, which clarify steps that come after each other details. I'm showing this here so we can see that we have options of how we set up our clause to convey the message in the clearest way. But the clause beforehand, as you saw, is completely satisfactory, but you can break down what types of seafood there are or a step of how it's going to work. Another example from that same resolution is, let's have dissect Senegal. Please read.
Further decides that all previously made seafood sales other countries should be completed between 30 and 40 days from the date of adoption of this resolution.
Excellent. Okay, so we see here that this clause is can be, a separate clause from the other one, though I think there is a case that it calls to be a subclause if you want it all in one, but it decides that the previously made seafood sales should be completed between 30 to 45 days. And this clause, by the way, so we can say when to sell, like we can say what to not sell, but it isn't when. And here, this decision is something which also you see within a certain timeline. It defines something specific that we can act on, we can understand. It's not stop selling someday. It's saying it needs to be completed, all sales from when we say this, by 45 days from when this resolution is adopted. Okay, so we see here options for subclauses, for different clauses that come and support each other to be on the same document. We need to work together, get your clauses on, help other people, be generous. In Model UN, generally, you're going to have different roles that you're going to have between yourselves. And there's going to be writers. There are going to be people working on coalition, bringing in new people and keeping people from getting, pulled into other blocks. And there are going to be speakers who are keeping the idea alive. And it's usually a mix of these different skills that make the best Model UNers. So be ready. Teamwork makes the dream work. And the less you work with people, the harder you're working on your own. So make sure to be open to working together. Okay, that's operative clauses. Before we go to preamble, are there any questions on operative clauses? No, all clear. Give me a thumbs up if we're clear. Okay, great. Thank you. Oh, someone even threw a bunch of thumbs up. All right, thank you. We're now going to move on to preambulatory clauses. I'm going to give less time to this because I said it's not as important if you're starting out, and if you have experience, you'll know to fit this in. There are three types of preambulatory clauses: information about the specific case, a legal right, and supporting materials. This can really be anything that you want it to be. Case-specific information shows the basic details of the situation. The clause does not tell us what to do. This is sort of the opposite. Now it's only about background that justifies the resolution. It tells us what's going on, but not what to do. If you see a preambulatory clause say, and because of this, we need to embargo seafood, that should be in the operative section. If you're a chair or if you chaired, it's your job to clarify to the delegates that action should not be in extensions of the preambs. Usually it's the other way around. Usually the operative clause have a Y that you shouldn't delete, you should put in the preambs. And I've seen delegates who say, we're not sure what to write in the preambs, but the operatives have a lot of Ys. So that's something to keep in mind. Next. So here's an example of a case-specific preambulatory clause. HSC Australia, please read the clause.
Deeply concerned about the threat of famine and global humanitarian need presently facing millions of people in the Democratic People's Republic of Korea and North Korea.
Wonderful. Now wait, we're gonna keep going. Give me and read this next clause, which also actually hold it. This is not what I was. Okay, yeah, go read.
Deeply concerns that the war between Ukraine and Russia will expand into Europe, and in such case, Russia could use nuclear weapons, and it is important that EU countries have means to defend themselves.
Wonderful. Okay, so what we see here are two clauses on different topics, but the realities they present are very different. And you could easily see a Korea one. So are we concerned about the famine and humanitarian aid, or are we concerned about the nuclear threat of a, allegedly repressive regime? So you see here that the same topic can be framed in different ways. And this is why I say you should not be making things up. You should make sure that you stick to facts. You can find facts to support different sides of different situations. You can say that we need to spend extra funding to help with this mosquito-driven virus as a global community. And you can do the opposite. You can say, hey, everybody, we think that we should work locally as our own countries to research diseases in our area. Many countries don't have mosquitoes, so we should either work on heart disease, which is global, or not deal with it at all. So we can recognize a world where the mosquito virus is terrible and a global threat, or we can recognize a world where the funding for different types of diseases should prioritize ones, in the UN at least, for the entire global community. So you see the difference? The same topic, different preambles, different types of framing. So this is first with the topic itself. Okay. By the way, this is the same thing. We can say that we're concerned about the war between Ukraine and Russia will expand to other countries. And in such cases, Russia could use nuclear weapons. Important to EU countries have a means to defend themselves. Should be deeply concerned about the war and expanding with nuclear weapons. You see here, what Russia could do is not relevant in the way that it's written here. Don't use adjectives. Same thing. Okay? Just stick to the facts. We're concerned that this could happen without descriptive language. That's number one. Describe the case, whatever way you describe it, that should happen. Number two, legal rights. A legal right is an interest accepted and protected by law. Different countries have different legal rights. We're going to have the example of legal rights read by the OECD chair. If you can please read this and unmute yourself, that would be great.
Recognizing Article 25 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which says, 1, everyone has the right to a standard of living adequate for the health and well-being of himself and of his family, including food, clothing, housing, and medical care. This clause shows that the North Koreans have a right to food.
Okay, very good. So we see here the work, and thank you, very well read. This is a good example of a clause which brings a right that supports what we're trying to do. We generally want to try to make sure that our right has something in it that supports what we're trying to do. You can find them in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. You can find them in the rights of the child, the law of the sea, whatever these things may be. And we usually want to find a right to support what we're doing. And if it's an advanced committee, like I trust you to do what you're doing, but in beginner committees, this is not as important. Justifying the case is sufficient. A right is nice. You're not going to be using this in most places. Like you can bring it up in your debate, but this is tiered to importance if you're a beginner. If you're a beginner, by the way, only write preams if you can. If not, focus on operative. If you're writing a pream, find one that supports your course of action, and the direct relation to the case is more important than a right. Same thing goes for supporting material, which is materials used to support your main points and give them more credibility. There are 3 types of supporting material, which are, I'd say, most relevant. Previous treaties, quotes from politicians, scientists, figures of interest, and statistical data. Oh, sorry. The supporting material can be, and also it's therefore, it's not 3 types. Part 3, supporting material. Treaties, quotes, statistical data, and anything else that strengthens your side of the resolution. To read this example, let's go with Interpol Israel. If you can please read this. Interpol.
Yeah.
Supporting material example, recalling the joint declaration of the Korean of Peninsula of 1993, signed by North Korea and South Korea on the denuclearization, which include establishment of a pledge not to possess nuclear reprocessing and uranium enrichment facilities. We see here a relevant past document we can use to show there was agreement in the past.
Beautiful, thank you. So, as Israel Interpol read so beautifully, we're recalling a joint declaration in 1993 signed by North and South Korea on denuclearization, which establishes a pledge not to possess nuclear processing and enrichment facilities, showing, hey, there was a deal in the past. That means we can make a deal in the future. It's not impossible. It has been done before. So when we're looking at these past treaties as one example, we need to make sure to keep in mind that the treaty is something which is relevant. Obviously, we want it to be closer to today. The closer it is to today, the more relevant it is because people can say that, just one second. Right. So the closer to today, the easier it is to not refute. If it's from far away, people can bring new examples to say, hey, this is something which is not as close to our time. It's already outdated by another newer piece of information. Voila. Okay. So here we have finally the preambulatory writing rules, like we had for operative clauses. The first word of each clause must be a preambulatory phrase. They are in a different sense from the operative phrases. They need to be italics. Preambulatory clauses end in a comma. They do not end in a semicolon. And they also don't have numbers. Okay, so very important. Preambulatory clauses don't have numbers like operatives. You just put them in order. And I would say you do want to make them from macro to micro. So you want to have the more important, bigger ones first. That makes more sense. For example, we want to start with, our situation. If we want to say, first of all, like we recognize that war is bad, and then go the war in, Syria is bad, and then go specifically to the regional war between the new government and, let's say, the Druze or the Kurds. Okay, so war is bad, regional war in the Middle East is bad, this specific area and the loss of life is something which we greatly regret and are worried about. Okay, so that's preambulatory clauses. Are there any questions on preambulatory clauses?
Yeah, I have a question.
All right, let's hear it.
If I'm writing preambulatory, like a phrase, but it's like clauses, but I want it to connect to my operative clause because it's not the background, but it's the like supporting material for it. Should I be writing it right after or separately? I should have operative clauses and then preambulatory clauses, like not connected.
So the connection should be in the content. It's not like they refer to each other. But if you say, for example, that there is an alarming amount of people infected by malaria through mosquitoes, and your operative clause deals with, killing mosquitoes in swamps, people can see the connection. I'd also say that for 2-day conferences, it's more likely the chairs will look at preambulatory clauses. For 1-day conferences, unfortunately, it's usually a rush and people go straight to the operative because there is no time. So I will say again, at least for, most of the conferences we have, the operative are much more important. I want to ask the Secretary General if he can give a few words on prioritizing, given that you've been to many conferences here. How much focus preambulatory versus operative have you found in your experience?
So just as you said, the main focus in most rooms, whether it be 1 or 2 day committees, I've seen not many uses of preambulatory clauses, which is a shame, honestly. But when I've been to a conference like in Prague, not in Israel, the use of preambulatory clauses was much higher and they were also really well written. So it's something to work on. Um, you need to make sure that your preambulatory clauses are there, but you need to make sure that your actions are actually the things that drive you to write.
All right. Excellent. Could not have said it better myself. Like there are countries and places and circuits where they focus more on preamps. It's not as important. Don't take time. It just like, for example, it may be fun to debate with the key person in the opposition. You can spend hours debating your ideas, but that's not where your focus should go. Your focus should go on the person on their phone in the corner who doesn't care. That's the person who is more likely to vote for you than the head of the opposition. Okay? Let's move on now to formatting. We don't have so much time, but I think we're doing a pretty good pace. Okay, what does a draft resolution look like? Okay, so number one, in the beginning, the committee name, sponsors, signatories, topic, why preambulatory, how operative, and then the details. Okay, so
Just a sec, Daniel, just a bit
yes.
of Pirsumot, okay, ads. Have a look at the topic, Daniel's topic, why preambulatory. It could be, what is why preambulatory? This is the problem, okay? And there could be a few preambulatory clauses. Like, Daniel, you taught me this, no? Remember when I was in Azerbaijan? Okay, there could be a few preambulatory clauses with subtopics, okay, sub-problems. And operatives should solve these problems, okay? So there could be one preambulatory clause and two operatives solving this problem or sub-problem. And there could be another preambulatory clause with one or two, one maybe well-developed operative or two well-developed clauses, okay? So that's it. This is what Daniel taught me.
Yep. Okay. Great. So I agree with Bronya very, very, very much. I think that it's you can have many preamps focusing on different types of issues. You can also have a few preamps pointing to one issue. And again, it's sort of like if a conference here said we must have preamps, so get your one out of the way. It's a question of prioritizing. Every conference has, they have their own culture, things they focus on, things they're stronger at, things they are not. Things keep in mind. Prioritize the operative. Okay. That doesn't mean ignore preamp, but I've seen people say, okay, I'll write all the preamps. You guys take care of the rest. Not a good strategy. All right. So this is how it works. There are templates online. There is a template on my website. If you type in MUN resolution template in a Google Doc, you can take it off of WiseMe. This is what it looks like at a zoom out. Lots of words in English. You see that there's the UN. By the way, this is a sample resolution. I think that you can see here that there's the logo, the committee, the topic, sponsors, signatories. There's the preamps, by the way, if you look at them, they don't have any numbers. It's just text in order. And then you see the numbers and the subclauses continuing. Now, if we look at it in this is an example that we made with some teachers during COVID. This illustrates the same idea. This is the format of more like how you should be doing it. And I'd like to invite somebody to read. We'll take any volunteer who feels they can read this. All right, let's go with Malaysia, UNODC. Please read up until the number 1. Go.
Sponsors: Amelia, David, Narkis, Sima, and Sharon. Signatories: Ben, Cameron, Leon, Peter. Topic: mandatory use of cameras in class. Recognizing how students learn less with cameras off during class. Deeply alarmed by how often parents clean their child's room during lessons.
Pause. Okay, very good. So we see with this resolution, the key point is we understand that it is human speak. Starts with the topic, Special Committee on Technology. The sponsors' names are in alphabetical order. The signatories' names are in alphabetical order, as they should be. The topic is use of cameras in class. All this is written clearly in an organized way. Your chair will send you back to make them in the right alphabetical order. Your chair will say that you missed something. We then see 2 preamps. There are many more operatives. And one of the preamps about how often parents clean their rooms during lessons is something that was pointed out to me by a bunch of teachers who were teaching over Zoom during COVID. I think we all can remember COVID at least somewhat. This is something that was brought up. It's not relevant to any of the clauses, but it is something which people say. Some preamps can be not essential. But the first one about recognizing how students learn less with cameras off is something valid. Okay? Very well read. Someone else to continue. Okay, let's go with Interpol. All right, we'll do it.
Which
Interpol,
one?
read the next three.
Which one?
Clauses 1, 2, 3.
No, like which one of us?
Oh, which Interpols do we have?
Wait, like both me, Israel, and South Africa both raised their own
I see.
hands.
Okay. All right, we'll do South Africa first and Israel second. South Africa, please read.
From number 2, right?
From number 1.
From number 1. Decides that students must have their cameras on for A, beginning of class, B, end of class, C, when presenting. 2, recommends that students should have cameras on for the entire class. 3, accept students can have cameras off, A, when doing classwork. 4, reaffirms students can have cameras
Wait,
off.
hold it. I wanted 1, 2, 3. Okay, so C number 3. Sorry, thank you very much, Michael. Okay, decides cameras must have students their cameras on. Okay, then it says when. 2 is a recommendation. We recommend they have them. They must have them on beginning, end, and when presenting. We recommend for the entire class. We accept the cameras can be off during classwork. See the difference here? What do we require? What do we recommend? And what do we accept? All of these are operative phrase words used in the way that makes it clear for us. Okay? Interpol number 2, please read 4, 5, 6.
Reaffirm students can have cameras off with teacher's permission when A, mother is cleaning, B, when eating, C, when dog or sibling is hanging out, D, when student is still in bed. 5. Students who do not meet the camera criteria for clauses 1 to 4 will be counted as absent. 6. Decides to remain sees the matter.
Beautiful. Okay, well read. We affirm. Reaffirms mean that it's basically saying even more so we're strengthening the previous decision that cameras can be off at certain times. 5 is, by the way, incorrect. It's missing a word in the beginning, but it gives the point that if you don't meet 1 through 4, you'll be absent. 6, decides remain seized on the matter. It's just the last clause that you write saying we're going to revisit this topic again in the future. Okay? We're now going to go into the any questions on this? All right, seeing none, we're going to go to the writing process and
I have a
resolution
question.
writing. Yes.
I also take one. Okay.
All right, 2 questions, quick. Yes.
It's just about like when do we write the thing? Do we need to have it prepared ahead or do you write it in the committee?
You write it in the committee together with other people. That's a good question. Some conferences will let you bring clauses in advance. As far as I know, this conference is not one of them. I'll ask the secretariat, are there any committees that allow pre-written resolutions?
Only in the beginners, maybe in the intermediate, the draft clauses, some key expressions, ideas, experts and advanced no.
Okay, excellent. So unless specifically stated, you write them on location, and if you're a first timer, it's expected to not be as great, and that is totally fine. There was one more question.
Yeah, in cases of combining resolutions, how do you prioritize which clauses to keep, or if you should combine with other groups?
It's according to your block. Daniel, continue, sorry.
Oh, okay.
I would say, look, you want to reach the numbers. You want it to be the more people you include, the more countries and positions, the more diluted it's going to be, the less strong the clause is going to be.
Okay.
On the other hand, the less people, the stronger it is. Look, the strongest paper is going to have 51% of the countries on it. Then when you're excluding half, it's going to be really strong instead of having 90% and it being weaker, depending on the topic and everyone is. But you got to keep merging to hit the numbers. Like you can't decide the four of us in a room of 40 worked it out. We're just going to stick together and dominate. It doesn't work that way. So merge as much as you comfortably can. Okay? Resolution writing lingo, and then there's more questions. Okay.
Yes, I have one.
African Union Congo.
Does resolution is limited by how many clauses do we need to write?
There is no limit. There's no minimum. As much as you need. Great. Okay. OECD Spain.
Can we write some clauses that reflect a general solution, not just a solution that reflects the country's point of view and the issue?
I mean, you'd want to reflect a solution that fits the country's view and also other countries' views. You're inviting a bunch of countries together to work on the solution. So your solution, if it's so specific that no one will work with you, that doesn't help. If there's a famine and you are Belgian, or in your case, you're Spain, and you say, okay, we want to help this famine in, I don't know, let's say, Eastern Iraq. And we're going to do that by making paella from Spain, which is a rice dish with seafood. And it will only be produced in Spain in factories. And the UN's going to buy it only from Spain and deliver it to the world. It's likely that other countries are not going to get on board because it's too specific and favors one country. So you're going to want your clauses to appeal to a number of countries. That's the better way for it to go. But that being said, you need to be specific. If it's too general, people aren't going to get on board. So it's finding the sweet spot of something which applies to many countries, but not all countries. Like I said, your policy, someone needs to disagree with it. Otherwise, it's not going to be as interesting and it's not going to stick the same way. All right, let's get back into it because we need to finish pretty shortly. Excellent questions, by the way. Okay, resolution writing lingo. Let's have EUCO, Romania. I think you wanted to read. So please read the following slide. Talian? Okay. No Romania. Canada, UNEP. Can you please read?
Do you hear me?
We hear you great.
Resolution writing language. Draft resolution, DR, the document after the chair approves content and formatting. Working paper, the document in any form before chair approval. Amendment, change to clause after the DR is approved.
Very good. Draft resolution after the chair approves. Working paper before, after the chair approves. You need to vote to make changes. Amendment is changes after it's approved. Sponsor, a main writer of the draft. Signatory, a supporter of the draft who at least wants to see it discussed. You can sign other documents. Signing doesn't mean that you need to vote. Sponsor means you are the main writer, but you can also be a signatory and be a main writer because most documents are going to, again, follow the rules of procedure. You can't have unlimited sponsors. It is a political title to be given. But I would say two things about this. Number one, if the sponsor list is capped, let's say you're allowed only 4 sponsors, and you're in a committee of 40 people, and for some reason, someone in the committee, either from the same school or has a lot of friends, they're not a very good delegate, but they have 8 friends, and they're saying, we're only voting if I'm a sponsor. Do you let go of the sponsorship to make the deal? Yes or no? Can somebody please tell me the answer to the question? Someone comes and they say, I have 8 friends. They don't care. They're on their phones all day. They'll vote for who I tell them. I want to be a sponsor. 8 people in a 40-person room. Can someone answer me? What do you do? Yes, no, or other? USA Dissect, do you have an answer? Is that you raising your hand?
No, I wanted to ask a question about how many sponsors we need to have in our resolution tool.
It depends on the conference. Dvir, do you have an answer for that? How many sponsors? It's usually a percentage of the delegates in the room. What?
It's 2 to 3 in every committee because they're all kind of the same size. And then for a draft resolution to be sent to the chairs, it needs to have at least a third of the quorum, including both signatories and sponsors.
Okay,
Wow.
thank you.
That's third with signatory and sponsors. Fine. Okay. I was just like, wow, that's okay, makes sense. All right, so three. Three in a committee of 30, or ideally more, but people drop out. I would say whatever committee number you're supposed to have, expect there to be, a few less. So if you want a 40-person committee, take 47. If you want a 20-person room, take, 25. Just not natural attrition. So on the sponsors and signatories, if someone says okay, so there's three sponsors allowed in a room, in a 30-person room or 40-person, and they say, I got 8 people, make me a sponsor. What do you do? Don't raise your hand, just answer. Turn on your microphone and answer. Anybody?
I do it.
You do it, okay? Anyone else who says do it, raise your hands. Who says do it? Okay. All right. Who will not do it? Raise your hand if you won't do it. Okay, raise your hand physically in front of the screen. I want to see you. We can all see each other. Okay, it seems more of us won't do it than they will. Actually, let's do it like this, because I have a bunch of cameras off. If you would make the deal, okay, write a 1. If you would not make the deal, write a 2. If your answer is something different from yes or no, write a 3 and prepare to explain.
Could you please repeat the deal?
The deal, okay, you are a sponsor. You helped write the draft, you led the discussion. Someone comes in and says, hey, I have 8 friends in this committee. They're going to vote with me. Make me a sponsor, and I will get on the draft. Okay? You've been active, you've been leading the room, but this is 8 votes, which you're not sure if you're making 50% if not. All right, Michael, South Africa, Y3, and then Malaysia, UNODC, Y3.
Because just as long as I can draft um, the resolution and I can have my political interest done, then I can be a senior
Signatory. Very good. Okay, Malaysia, Y3.
Same reason as the other guy.
Okay, excellent. So the correct answer, it's a little bit more nuanced, but that's basically is if I can be seen with the main idea, I don't have to be a sponsor. Okay, Crisis, you have a 3? What's the reason?
So basically, what I would do personally is I would try to convince them to become not the main sponsor. I would try to convince them to side with me, or either I would threaten them with attacking them in the
Okay.
committee.
I mean, if in a regular committee attacking, like in Crisis, that's something you can do more easily. But yeah, also
Yeah,
a
but
valid.
also bringing up scandals they have done throughout history regarding the topic, meaning by threatening them.
Okay. So, all right, we're getting okay. Last one, African Union Congo, Y3.
Because I think mostly if we are a group of big people who have big opinions, and then there's this other group that is 8 people, we could try to tell them we could add your ideas to our resolution.
The guy's saying no. He's saying, I have 8 friends. They will vote with me, whatever. They've been quiet the whole time. They've been voting him the whole time. He sat quietly the whole time. And he's saying, my school told me I have to be a sponsor. These 8 are my friends. They will vote with me. There's no one to talk to. It's just me. And he's telling the truth. You know this. You've been with them all day. End of the day, you have watched. These people don't care. They just like their friend.
But if I'm suggesting them that we could have the majority by them joining us.
Yeah. Will you give up your sponsor spot?
No.
Okay, good. That's the question. So the correct answer to this, actually, if any, there is a nuanced answer, and it's based on what Michael said. Anyone want to give a guess? Michael, what Michael said is that I don't mind being a strong signatory if my idea is represented. Okay? Now, the deeper answer to this is, and this is a bit of, MUN thinking here, is the only reason to do it is if that will be recognized. And it's only going to be recognized if you have a good chair. If your chair is not a good chair, who comes from a society where they're taught that the best delegate must be a sponsor, don't give up the spot. Lose the numbers. Okay, and you need to check if your chair is good, if they see nuance of MUN. By the way, if you're not sure if your chair can do that move, okay, again, all the chairs should be excellent. They've all been screened. But if you are not sure for some reason, your chair's walking out during unmods, they're whispering to their friends, they're not, calling on people in an order, go to your secretariat and clarify. Okay, go to secretariat or go to your advisors, but eventually say, hey, there's a move I'm trying to do, but I think my chair is not paying attention and I'm worried I will lose my position. Can you please clarify? And then by the way, it's the secretariat's job to make sure the chairs are doing their jobs. If you, and this is an excellent conference for that, I can say this is a gold standard of making sure that good academic practices are being done. So if you feel your chairs are not taking notes on what you're doing, if you see that they're, by the way, if your chair is talking to the other person during your entire speech, they're missing out on what's going on. If you're in the double delegation room and they're only inside and not watching what's outside, again, and if you're a chair, by the way, in a double del room, ask the secretary, say, yeah, I need an extra piece of eyes, because they're going to two sides of the hall. Call in help, call in backup. This is what they're here for. There are people walking around to help, get people involved. Okay? But again, these moves are only good if your chair is going to see them being done. If your chair is going to miss them, then obviously it's not worth sacrificing your position. Maybe worth, going down with the ship. Okay? But generally, I would say if you can get the majority and the chair is going to watch it, yeah, move from sponsor to signatory. Being a sponsor with a good chair who's paying attention doesn't really matter. They're looking for who's most involved. And just like the number one clause, it's a negotiation tool. But if your chair looks for the clause that's number one and only looks for sponsors and follows those things that have less nuance, that's what you got to play. Play to the people. I have a whole workshop I talk about this and how to do it, but that's not here today. Okay? Finally, summing up. Okay, UNSC, you have a quick question?
Yeah, you were talking about being the first class and all. How will the chairs or other people be able to identify that a clause is specifically related to you? Or is it just by you talking about the idea?
By walking around.
Okay.
Yep, by walking around, by talking about it. Ideally, you also want to get other countries to echo you. And you can ask if, Bronya and the Atid want me to give a workshop on floor work and coalition sometime. You need to make sure that when other people talk about you, they should mention your clause and connect it to you. It's just like with commercials. They say you need to watch an ad 7 times to remember it in your mind. And for those of you who don't pay YouTube or Spotify Pro and you're going to just see all these same ads popping up, it takes a while to register that it's there. Same thing. You saying it once in your opening speech is not enough. It's not people are looking to remember it. Repetition, 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 repetition is key. Others should mention your clauses. You should mention theirs. This is a team activity. Okay. Final points. All right. So I hope, by the way, I'm getting something for the advanced and the beginners here. I'm trying to cover a lot in a short amount of time. Okay. Draft resolutions. How do you write them? During the unmod, you write down your calls to action, combined ideas with others. The combination of ideas in writing is called a draft resolution. Unmod uniform. Show yourself to be writing, even if you're done writing. Look like you're writing, even if you're not writing. Hold a laptop and walk around. Fake it till you make it. Good chairs will see who's doing what, but not good chairs will see you sitting and waiting. Not good. Even if it comes down to the 3 best writers cleaning up the document, and that can happen, sit next to them. Be in their face. Okay? Chairs know what to look for, and part of their ranking is who stopped being active. Even if you stop being active, don't show yourself stop being active. Ideally, be engaged. Always have the Google Doc open. Always walk around with your laptop or tablet. That is part of the unmod uniform. Finally, merging. Only one draft can pass per UN committee. The first draft resolution to get a majority. So countries should try to work together to merge their ideas to get a majority and keep your eyes on the vote count. Okay? If you don't have the numbers, it doesn't matter how good what you write is. If you don't have a third of a quorum signed on the document. Now, by the way, signatories and even sponsors don't have to vote for the document. It makes sense if you worked on it, but you can sign it just because you want to see it discussed. So that's also something to keep in mind. All right. So we've gone through the whole world of resolutions. There is more to say, but as an introduction, hopefully this gets us comfortable. This is a writing activity. This is a teamwork activity. This is a group activity. As we have done all of our questions pretty much before, if there are final questions relevant for everyone, We have like a minute for questions. Any final questions? All right, seeing none. It's been really great to see everyone, hang out with you all. I look forward to seeing you at the conference. Super good luck. I want to again thank the Secretariat for being here, to Dvir, to Uri. Is the other USG here or not? Okay, well, she is missed. And to Bronya for putting this together and really making this the gold standard of what MUN conference prep
It's
should
the
be.
team. It's the team. I'm micromanaging.
The team. Yeah. It's listen. Just because things can exist in potential doesn't necessarily mean that they actualize. It's been beautifully actualized. Wish everyone a fruitful discussion. Thanks for coming out. We'll see you at the conference.
Thank you, Daniel, and we will continue. We're a bit pressed of time. So before Dvir starts and